Hi everyone, good evening. Our top lead this evening. It is a big setback for ex-Congress chief Rahul Gandhi. The Gujarat High Court has rejected the review petition filed by him in the Modi surname defamation case. Dismissing his plea, the Gujarat High Court said a stay on conviction is an exception, not the rule. He also observed that the case had serious implications as this was not about defaming one person, but a large section of society. The judge in his order also observed that at least 10 criminal cases are pending against the Congress leader, including one filed by the grandson of Veer Savarkar. The Congress says the decision was expected and has decided to move the top court, which is the Supreme Court. Now, if you remember, earlier, a Surat court had convicted Mr. Rahul Gandhi in the Modi surname case and had sentenced him to 2 years in prison. That's the maximum sentence in a defamation case. The conviction led to his immediate disqualification as a member of parliament. The Congress has accused the BJP of strangling democracy, while the BJP is calling Rahul Gandhi a serial offender. Listen in.
तो you have no control on your tongue कि आप कुछ भी बोल देंगे. और जब आपको कोर्ट ने कहा कि राहुल गांधी जी आप माफी मांगेंगे, तो साहब आप सीधा कि मैं सावरकर नहीं हूं कि माफी मांगूंगा. This is, I would say, irresponsible arrogance. गैर जिम्मेदार अहंकार है. अगर 10-10 आपके खिलाफ डिफेमेशन के मामले चलते हैं, आप सावरकर को कुछ भी बोल देंगे, आप संघ के बारे में क्या क्या टिप्पणी नहीं करेंगे, आप आर्मी के खून की दलाली का हिसाब मांगेंगे, आप चुनाव आयोग को क्या नहीं बोलेंगे, आप मीडिया को बिका हुआ बोलेंगे, भारत में लोकतंत्र खत्म हो गया बोलेंगे, तो ये तो सुपर सीरियल ऑफेंडर हैं जहां तक अब्यूज का सवाल है.
Let me go straight across to Abhishek Manu Singhvi, who's a Congress MP, also the legal lead for the team that is batting for Mr. Rahul Gandhi in the courts. Mr. Singhvi, first of all, thank you very much for your time here on Mirror Now. Good to have you on the show as always. Sir, in your press conference today, you have said that you have full faith in the judiciary. Do you say it because the stay on conviction is not the rule, or do you say it because of some other reason?
I choose my words carefully, despite any attempts at distortion. I said it's very disappointing, but not unexpected. That's different from saying it's expected. Second, there is a whole ambience created. I am openly saying that it is highly unsustainable, erroneous, wrong. That is my right to say so. There is no diminution in the respect for the judiciary in my saying so. The two are not at all contradictory. We are now very confident that the Supreme Court will reverse a wrong judgment. And let me tell you why it's an utterly wrong judgment. I'll give only a few examples. I don't intend to be legalistic for your viewers here. Take, for example, a particular part of the judgment, which incidentally we got only today at 3 p.m. or so, after 66 odd days. The hearing was concluded on 2nd of May. The learned judge goes to the extent of saying this is moral turpitude. It shows the direction from which he's coming. Now, anybody who has examined the law knows that moral turpitude is a term of art reserved for issues like rape, murder. I don't think anybody ever has characterized a defamation offense with a maximum term of 2 years as a moral turpitude. The judge is clearly colored by that finding in a particular para 45 of his judgment. That's completely, it is on the face of it, it shows not the error, it shows the direction from which the learned judge is examining the matter. Similarly, in the previous para, there is a suggestion as if it's serious, serious, and serious. Every time the word serious is repeated, again, trying to club it with matters like murder or rape, etc. The legislature is not a foolish entity to give a maximum 2-year sentence for something which the learned judge describes again and again as serious, serious, and serious. Yes, it's an offense, but every offense is not equally serious. Third, the question is not answered that whoever is defamed, and again the Prime Minister's name is taken, but the Prime Minister is not the complainant, The question is not answered, raised again and again, that anyone out of 13 crore alleged people with that surname would have locus to file. So I can file against you as one amongst the 13 crores, and I have locus, even though the actual aggrieved party does not file. And the one of the 13 crore people who filed show no damage, no loss. These are not questions answered. Forget right or wrong. Take, for example, much said Veer Savarkar point by the previous speaker whom you showed. Do you know, Shreya, that the Veer Savarkar complaint was filed 1 month after the present complaint was decided in March. The trial court decided the present complaint in March. The Savarkar thing was filed afterwards. The matter was not pleaded in the appeal in the High Court by the other side. On the last day of hearing on 2nd of May, a cutting was handed across. And that apparently, astonishingly, becomes a major basis for the judgment, which at 10:30 today, when the judge said that the copy will be available at 2:30, was mentioned by the judge as an additional reason. And it finds mention in para 63. There is a discipline of the law, and there are many more reasons. I mean, I can go on and on. My point is that mere repetition of error by a high court does not make it correct. That's why there is a Supreme Court, and I'm sure, I'm confident that such patent errors will be reversed.
Mr. Singhvi, the judgment is 123 pages long, and it's laying down 5 major points. They say, and you've said this, but I wanted to take you up on this point as well once again. The court is saying that the offense is very serious because it is not about one man. It is not about Narendra Modi who has been defamed. It's about an entire community, the Modi community that has been defamed. That it's not just Narendra Modi who has been defamed, that the entire community has been defamed. And what Mr. Singhvi, the court is also saying is that what is making it worse, and I'm of course just paraphrasing the court, is that Mr. Gandhi is a public person and his utterances attract widespread publication.
Can I answer now? Now,
yes,
please show me any judgment which applies a special law to a public servant. So if the law does not apply generally, then that principle will not apply to Rahul Gandhi because he's a public servant. On the contrary, a public servant has a greater latitude of free speech, free expression, if he's raising matters in a public campaign of public interest. Rahul Gandhi has a right to criticize and condemn. He may not be strictly right, but even if he's not right in his condemnation in a political campaign, it doesn't amount to defamation. Defamation has to be with malice aforethought. It has to be in terms of a malicious campaign which can sustain a conviction for defamation. Now, your point about the community. Does the learned judge address anywhere that the very concept of a defined community is wrong? It's an undefined, amorphous entity. There is material which we put on record, which is there in the contention the judge has noted. That there is no defined community is my contention. And secondly, let me tell you, assuming there is something called a Modi community, there is not a single judgment which suggests that any one out of the estimated 13 crore people or 10 crore, doesn't matter how many crore people of that community, anyone can sustain a defamation complaint without showing actual personal damage. Rahul Gandhi gives a 2 or 3 page speech in which there is a 1.5 sentence on this issue. The persons named, clearly identified is Mr. Narendra Modi. Narendra Modi doesn't file a complaint. None of the other Modis file a complaint. But according to this judgment, any of the other Modis on this amorphous, undefined class have locus to file. There is no such law I have found anywhere till now. And imagine the repercussion, Shreya.
So,
if this principle of law is
ask
correct,
you this then
defamation suits every day without showing loss, without showing damage. Saying you are from some Dhoundial community, you have no connection with the remark which I am making about Dhoundials, but because you are a Dhoundial, you feel aggrieved to file and sustain. That is not the law. Not for a criminal offense, not even for a civil offense.
Okay, Mr. Singhvi, look, maybe at another point, this country will need to have a debate about whether or not we need a defamation law, right?
That's not
Because
true.
nowhere in any Western democracy will you see a politician suing a politician for a political speech that has been made, right? But here's the thing. In your view, should Rahul Gandhi have apologized for the statement he made? There was simply no reason for him to make that statement. It was in bad taste. It was in poor taste. Should he have simply apologized, said, I'm sorry, I made a mistake, and moved on?
Let's be very clear. Let's be very clear. The answer is an emphatic no. You have just said that in a political campaign, you make a general statement, nobody identified in the statement sues. Somebody, all of persons who sue are BJP office bearers. Not only in this matter, in all the other matters across the country. The source is always the BJP. Nobody else feels aggrieved. The real person doesn't sue. And he should apologize, number one. Number two, today, why is this apology issue being raised? It's completely irrelevant. I have a conviction. I have a right to set aside that conviction because it's illegal in law. Today, there is a disqualification based on that conviction. Have you ever found a person who will be disqualified for 8 years for a defamation offense carrying a maximum of 2 years? I think the only answer is, Shreya, the object is totally different. Get a coterie of BJP office bearers across the country to keep filing complaints. Why? For one object only. Throttle free speech, throttle free expression, throttle free thinking. I raise 10 issues tomorrow, suppose. Rafael to whatever. It's not proved in court. They may be wrong. They may be partially wrong. Can you sustain a defamation conviction in a political campaign because I criticize you and condemn you? Unless I prove in every sentence I say, I go and prove. Otherwise, you will convict me. I mean, this is unheard of. This is actually nothing but harassment, orchestrated harassment, something which is organized to stop Rahul Gandhi from showing truth to power. He speaks up fearlessly. He doesn't get cowed down. So you have across the country, all the 10 cases repeatedly referred by the judgment are cases where he's not convicted, he's accused. But have you asked who has filed those 10 cases? In every case, a BJP office bearer.
In this case, the Congress party, sir, and you in the press conference have argued that this is a conspiracy against Mr. Rahul Gandhi. You've just said it as well, that democracy is being throttled. Mr. Singhvi, my last question to you, how is this a conspiracy? He said what he said. It's on record, right? He said it at a public rally. A BJP leader whose own surname is Modi took umbrage and filed a defamation suit. He was upset, he was angry, he filed a defamation suit. Why say this is throttling democracy or a conspiracy against Rahul Gandhi then?
Because on the same, very clearly why. Take this sentence alone, 1.5 sentences out of 3 pages speech. 3 BJP, I'm sorry, madam, not one. 3 BJP office bearers filed 3 complaints, one in Jharkhand, one in Gujarat and one elsewhere. 3 for a speech in Kolar. Apart from that, 10 have filed for other speeches. Is it not an attempt to, and who is that common man who has filed? Who is this complainant? He's not a common man. He's an office bearer of Gujarat BJP. The chap in Jharkhand is an office bearer there. So who is aggrieved? If at all somebody is aggrieved, it is Nirav Modi, Prime Minister Modi, or some third Modi. They have not filed. And who has told you that the law permits me to file just because I carry their surname? We have shown that Modi are different communities. The surname Modi is carried by totally radically different communities. Have you ever heard of a criminal locus of any member out of what one of the pleading shows is estimated 10 to 13 crore people? This is a fundamental error. If you start sustaining criminal convictions like this, then there will be no free speech. I have no hesitation in saying that this is an attempt to go across the country.
Error then in our country? Okay. Is it also an error then not to discuss decriminalizing defamation? Has the time come? Maybe that's a discussion for another time, Mr. Singhvi. But we leave it there for the moment. Thank you very much for your time here on Mirror Now. Thank you very much indeed. Always good.
1 minute, Shreya. There is an irony there. 1 minute. Decriminalization of defamation is not the issue today, and we're not discussing it rightly. But I'll tell you the irony. Just Subramaniam Swamy judgment is already there. Where I appeared against Mr. Subramaniam Swamy, argued that the provision for criminal defamation is not unconstitutional. Nothing to do with this case. I was generally arguing in law. and I succeeded. So the law today as it stands is that criminal defamation is not unconstitutional. Perhaps because of that victory in that case. But we're not arguing that today. This is just an irony I'm pointing out.
That's for some other time then. We'll leave it there, Mr. Singhvi. Thank you very much. Thanks for joining us. Let me quickly introduce my guest to you this evening. This will be a quick chat, possibly 20 minutes, no more. R.S. Pathania is a leader of the BJP. Thank you very much. Adil Singh Bopara, spokesperson of the Congress party. Thank you. Namit Saxena is an advocate from the Supreme Court. And we have Aditya Pratap, also an advocate, joining us on the broadcast. Thank you very much. Who should I start with, the lawyers or the politicians? Maybe I should start with the politicians. Mr. Pathania, nowhere in any Western democracy do you have a politician sue a politician for a political speech that has been made. Politicians sue the media. They will sue, private individuals. But they don't sue fellow politicians, because we know that all sorts of things rhetorically get said from an election stage, from a political stage. The Congress party is saying this is nothing but targeting and harassment and nothing else.
Shreya, Congress party has said many more things. They have said this is conspiracy of BJP. They have said this is misuse of law. And they have accused the judiciary also. They lost in the lower court. They lost in the session court. They lost in the high court. No, all bags in the Supreme Court basket. Congress has said many things. One simple thing, why doesn't Congress do? Why don't they train and tame the unruly Rahul Gandhi? After all, he's their leader. They should sensitize himself. Don't denigrate Indian democracy. Don't denigrate Indian institutions, Supreme Court, CBI, ED. Don't denigrate people. And virtually, please don't denigrate the OBC community, Modi community. Please, this is the only question. Not at all the abuse of law or politicians suing a politician. Why don't you denigrate? And defamation law is very, very clear, very, very categorical. One that lowers the estimation of a particular person or a class of persons in the estimation of right-thinking people. Modi sabke sab chor, does it not? It strictly straight fits into the straitjacket of the framework of defamation. And in all wisdom, the learned trial court, the learned session court, the learned high court, despite, and I will refrain from making any value judgment comments on the merits of the case, but this is absolutely legal process.
Okay.
No need to take a political
but Mr. Pathania, fact also is that of the many Modis in this country, Mr. Pathania, the case also is that out of the many Modis in this country, only the Modi who was with the BJP in Gujarat went to the court, right? If the entire community was aggrieved, the entire community would have come to court and said, even we are aggrieved, hame bhi bahut bura laga, yes, sue him, put him behind bars.
That doesn't stop.
The fact is that if a BJP neta with the surname Modi goes to court, you will feel it is motivated to harass.
Absolutely not, Shreya. That doesn't stop because the applicant belongs to Bharatiya Janata Party, and it stops her espousing them from an assault or an affront to the community. Not at all. That's no more thing. You see, right to freedom of speech and expression is not an absolute right. Not even in Indian democracy, in all the almost Western democracies. And the law of slander, this is basically an evolution of the English law. It is itself subject to the right to freedom of speech and expression. It is itself subject to reasonable restriction. We need to honor that. We need to honor the labor of the law. And once it is Rahul Gandhi, he's the leader of the Congress party, he stands on a very, very high pedestal. He needs to respect it in a more gracious and a dignified way. And the Honorable High Court has ruled very, very clear that the lower court judgment is just, proper and legal. Please.
Adil Singh Boparia is one of the things that the court has said today as well. That look, it's not about one person, it is about an entire community. I'm of course paraphrasing them. And B, more importantly, the utterances have come from the mouth of a person with a public standing. Therefore, what he says is advertised all across. That leads to defamation. My question to you is this, and it's not just the BJP asking you this question. The point is that what Mr. Gandhi said from the stage about Modi's and the Modi surname was unnecessary. It was in bad taste. It was unnecessary. It was rhetorical, yes. But could he have not simply apologized and moved on? Maybe the trouble that has followed him from 2019 would have stopped in 2019 or 2020 itself.
Shreyaji, in the last 160 years of the codification of the Indian Penal Code, not a single court of law, and I repeat, not a single court of law has sentenced an accused in a verbal defamation stroke slander case for a maximum sentence of 2 years. This sentence by itself is unique, extraordinary, and unparalleled in defamation jurisprudence of this country starting from post 1860. Point number one. Point number two, since when has it become a crime in this country to seek accountability for bank frauds and economic fugitives? If the BJP wants to pull out one sentence, extrapolate one sentence from a 3-page speech and attribute this to Mr. Gandhi, then they must also respond to the context of the speech. And the context of the speech is that there are economic fugitives who have duped the public and run away with 10,000 crore rupees of public money. So what sin has an opposition leader committed? Point number two. Point number three, this is an attempt to throttle democracy in this country. And this is not just restricted to opposition leaders, this also extends to members of your own fraternity. Tomorrow you pose a question, you will have a barrage of BJP trolls swooping down and attributing all sorts of motives. Number four, where the malice elements come in. I think there is a role reversal. The malice is on the part of the BJP. How can you have multiple complaints based on a single cause of action across the length and breadth of this country? Is that not malice? If tomorrow you make an imputation and there are people filing complaints from Kerala to Kanyakumari, from Kerala to Kashmir for the same cause of action, would you not allege malice? Would you not allege forum shopping? Would you not allege an attempt to stifle free speech in this country? And finally, let me say this on behalf of the Congress party, we are not perturbed. Our yearning for justice will continue. The BJP and their dirty tricks department can do whatever is at their disposal.
Adil, you can blame it on the BJP's dirty tricks department, etc., but the fact is that your leader is the one who gave them a handle.
So what
if you had to say things about economic fugitives like Lalit Modi and Nirav Modi, why go on and add that smart Alex statement to say why are all chores called Modis? You are disrespect. Forget the economic fugitives. Say what you want to about them. But you're disrespecting an entire community. You're not just disrespecting the Prime Minister. Maybe as a politician, you have the right to disrespect a Prime Minister as a political opponent. But an entire community, सोच समझ के बोलना पड़ता है ना आदिल, when you are in public life. जो भी मुंह में आए थोड़ी ना बोल देते हैं.
Give me 30 seconds, please. There is no imputation to the community. Every speech, every word has to be seen in a certain context, really. You know that better than me. You're a journalist. Every word is watched, but the context is what matters. So if the BJP wants to extrapolate a certain imputation and blow it out of context, that's up to them. But the larger question, in the past 160 years, nobody in this country has been convicted and sentenced to the maximum of 2 years. This is unheard of. I could imagine the Britishers in pre-partition era lodging all sorts of cases against our freedom fighters, starting from Gandhiji to Bal Gangadhar Tilak. This is exactly what the Bharatiya Janata Party is doing. Post-independence, they're doing the same, misusing the same law, weaponizing defamation to stifle free speech and political accountability. These are larger questions which this country has to consider. Are we an autocratic country?
Mr. Pathania,
where free
maximum punishment?
Where accountability will be stifled?
Mr. Pathania, okay, I'll get in the lawyers in a bit, but Mr. Pathania, one of the reasons why the Congress party is questioning the courts is because of the maximum sentence that has been doled out.
Priya, what stops a learned judge?
There is, under the sections in which he is booked, maximum sentence is 2 years.
2 years.
And we know what the People's Representation Act tells us, that 2 years conviction means you cannot be an MP for the next 8 years. You're suspended and you cannot be an MP for the next 8 years.
Yes. Shreya,
It could have been 1 year, 8
maximum of
months,
2
1
years.
year, 9 months. The court knew what it was doing. The court,
Shreya,
more than any one of us, knew what it was doing. It knew that its sentencing would ensure that Mr. Rahul Gandhi loses his MPship and will not be able to fight the next election.
Shreya, that's not a question. That's absolutely not the question. And this is not at all Bharatiya Janata Party versus Congress or Rahul Gandhi versus Modi. 3 successive judgments, one by the London Trial Court, one by the London Session Court, and one by the London High Court. No, let's wait for the Supreme Court judgment also. Even 3 successive judgments, I'll use the word 3 raps on the Congress knuckles, have not been able to train and tame the unruly Congress. This is sheer studied arrogance. Why they're not able to say sorry? Why they're not able to retract their words? Why they're out and out to make another issue out of it and denigrate a learned freedom fighter who spoiled his entire life, who spent almost 11 years at Andaman and Nicobar. मैं Savarkar नहीं हूँ. Very simple. Not to speak of the legal nuances. सभी मोदी चोर हैं. Does a democratic fabric, does a democratic
Mr.
scheme of this
Pathania.
thing, by India is being governed by the rule of law. Will anybody permit such a bald comment from a leader of the Congress party? This is absolutely bad, unjustified. You see, there's a model thin distinction between
Mr. Pathania.
blasphemy and political criticism.
Mr. Pathania.
Please.
Okay.
Please,
This is not blasphemy. Blasphemy is completely something different. Mr. Pathania, here's the point. If the BJP is going to be so thin-skinned about something that is being said to the Prime Minister, acha, theek hai, aapke liye, not for me. If the BJP is going to be so thin-skinned about comments that are made against it, derogatory comments that are made against it, fact is, then please ask your leaders also not to make derogatory comments on the other side. Should I start listing them for you? By now, as news people, we know them by heart. Jersey cow. Who called Sonia Gandhi a Jersey cow? Who called Shashi Tharoor's ex-wife, former wife, 50 crore ki girlfriend? Please tell me. Is this not derogatory? Is this not defamatory?
Let this churning
Who
of
called Renuka ji Supnakha?
act as a deterrent. Let it act as a deterrent.
No. Answer my question. I'm asking you a question. I'm asking you a question. If there is to be morality in public life, that morality has to work both ways, on both sides. You cannot demand morality from the Congress and not show it yourself.
Shreya, I'll not join an issue with you on this aspect. I'll not join an issue with you on this aspect, and I respectfully acquiesce the agreement and the point you have made. I will not at all defend any comment which is certain personal or which amounts to defame any person or a class of person may be made by a leader having affiliation to the Bharatiya Janata Party. Let us take these successive judgments. Let this as a new juggernaut, as a new watershed. There needs to be a decency in public discourse. There needs to be a basic minimum level of decency and a respect for each and everybody.
I agree with you.
After all,
I agree with you.
We need to be decent. We need to be respectful. We need to have.
But in the mother of democracy, sir,
respect for the Lakshmana Rekha. Please, madam, please.
Sir.
Please.
No, I agree with you. Actually, sir, I completely agree with you and your point of view that there is a Lakshman Rekha that cannot be crossed.
Absolutely.
We have dismantled the old parliament and we have a new parliament because we want to move away from our colonial past. The defamation law is part of our colonial past. And many democracies in the world have walked very far from it. Namit Saxena, just come in here. Again, I want to ask you why you think what the Gujarat High Court has done is the right thing, given the fact that politicians say all sorts of things against each other on a public platform. We as viewers, we as Janta, we as the voters say this is what Indian democracy is about. It's about name calling. They'll say things to each other. The election will be over. Things will be forgotten and everyone will just move on. In this case, no one wants to seem to move on. There was a statement made. And there's a defamation case filed and that case is ongoing and a member of parliament is no longer a member of parliament. How is this fair? He has just said what a lot of people say on a political stage.
See, normalizing exchange of verbal blows in political discourse is one thing. But when a crime is committed, see, when we are dealing with a particular crime of defamation, the law is different, is one. Second, see, we have to understand the
How is
vertical
this
in
a
which we are.
crime? I want to ask you, how is this a crime?
No, that
Namit,
the
how is this a
trial
crime that attracts a jail sentence? मैंने आपके बारे में कुछ बोला, आपको अच्छा नहीं लगा, तो आप lawyer, आप मुझ पे defamation case कर दोगे, which means I'll go to jail for 2 years.
See, the law, I'll tell you what the law of defamation, broadly says. You say something to me, I did not like it, it may be in bad taste, that is not defamation by any stretch of imagination. But when you say something like this, which in form of slander, that is even, in fact, not even protected by free speech under Article 19 one way. But see, for this debate, we have to understand the vertical in which we are in today. Rahul Gandhi today stands as an established convict. Trial court has convicted him. The appellate court has suspended his sentence under 389(3). The vertical in which we are in today, is bound by the law under 389(1) CRPC, which is whether his conviction by the trial court should be stayed or not. Now, 389(1) CRPC, the law is very well settled. One, it can only be done, stay of conviction can only be done in exceptional and rare circumstances, and ordinarily it cannot be done. Second, the appellate court will not touch merits of the case. It is not something that, that while, deciding on stay of conviction, the appellate court is sitting and deciding the appeal itself, because the appeal papers are not before. It is a simple application whether during pendency of the appeal before a particular appellate court, the sentence ought to be suspended or not. Now, the law on this is very, very clear. That is why, two successive courts, the Sessions Court and the High Court today, has said that, that the law is clear in 389(1) CRPC, unless there are exceptional circumstances made out by the accused, by the established convict, it cannot be done. Now, this they will go to the Supreme Court, and Supreme Court will deliver justice to us under Article 136 of the Constitution. See, there are concurrent findings. These, throughout by 3 courts now, that this is one, this is a prima facie defamation, and second,
Namit,
no ground made to stay the conviction.
Namit, so much legalese nahi. Ab suno, Namit, suno. I'm just asking you. I'm just asking you this question, and this is something Mr. Boparai is saying, and I want your perspective and Aditya's perspective on this as well. Okay, a lot of legalese, okay, but just tell my viewers this. In the last 160 years, this is the first time that a defamation case in India is attracting a maximum sentence of 2 years. That's the maximum sentence that can be given. It has been given. How does it make sense? Today the judge has spoken about moral turpitude. How is this moral turpitude? Moral turpitude is used when people are murdered, when people are raped.
No, there I agree with you. See, the High Court ought not to have touched the merits of the case at all. I completely agree with you. This is not moral turpitude. The High Court is absolutely wrong in calling it moral turpitude. The High Court is absolutely wrong in giving a lecture on moral science that there has to be purity in politics, etc. That part of High Court is, that is completely wrong in my view also. But see, that is why I said, see, assuming 160 years, the maximum punishment and defamation was not given. Does it bound the trial court not to give it at all? You change the law. The law prescribes this punishment. The law says that you can give it.
It doesn't bound them. But it doesn't bound them. Aditya Pratap, it doesn't bound them. Certainly it doesn't bound them. But does it smell a little fishy? 160 साल में जो काम नहीं हुआ, वो राहुल गांधी के लिए हुआ.
Bilkul, see, the point is, the question is, if instead of Rahul Gandhi, there was someone else who was an accused, would the law have acted in this manner? Recently, I came across a term called differential enforcement of the law. And differential, and with all due respect, I don't want to go into any criticism or such, but differential enforcement of law is something which should be clearly avoided. Now, the point is simple. When we read the language of Section 389 CRPC, Mr. Namit says, rarest of the rare. What do you mean, rarest of the rare? Is this some case of murder? Is this some case of terrorism that you're applying rarest of the rare? No. This is a case of defamation. In fact, I would question the very basis of this defamation case. If you see the wordings of Section 499 CRPC, they use the word person. Has he defamed a person? Okay, there is an explanation to Section 499, which can call person, association, company, or collection of persons. But can a mere surname be used to denote a collection of persons? People with the same surname are not even, they might belong to different communities. They might they belong to different families. clearly there is no way you can even term them a collection of persons. So really, in fact, Rahul Gandhi's is a case where the sentence could have been easily, because under Section 3891 CRPC, court has the discretion to suspend the execution of the sentence or suspend the conviction. And clearly, in an offense like defamation, where even the basic ingredients are not fulfilled, the reddest of the red doctrine need not even be applied. And this is less than 3 years imprisonment. Also, it's just 2 years imprisonment. So, and especially when you raise the meaning of the term Rahul Gandhi, of course, because we have seen it very clearly that because of this conviction, he lost a seat in parliament. 8 years he's out of parliament. So if you feel, probably the ruling party thinks that they have knocked out a very key ruling player out of the campaigning, which was, of course, the Indian voter won't fall for it. But then I see, but then in my opinion, I of course do believe that instead of Rahul Gandhi, had it been any other regular common citizen, the trial probably would not have emerged. Probably the trial would have gone on a different foot. Like such a likely outcome could have been avoided.
Okay, Mr. Pathania, I think Adil ke ghar mein light chali gayi hai. So it's just you and me right now. Mr. Pathania, this is my last question to you.
Please.
Please tell me, with a hand on your heart, whether what Rahul Gandhi said was a crime so grave that he has to lose his membership from parliament and that he'll be barred from fighting the next election. Is that what you really believe as a politician? I mean, many people will say, actually, the conviction has done the Congress party a lot of good. Do election to jeet hi gaye hain tab se. Plus, there is some public sympathy also for Rahul Gandhi after the conviction.
Shreya, this is what the limb of the law says. And this Representation of People Act.
Law chhodiye, sir. Law to aisa hai, the law has been there for 160 years. No, Mr. Pathania, the law has been, law ki baat chhodiye, law has been there for 160 years. Yes. For 160 years, no one in a defamation case has got the maximum sentence of 2 years.
But the
for Rahul Gandhi, everyone knew that the maximum sentence for 2 years means he would be disqualified.
One-liner, madam. Shreya,
and not be able to, and not be allowed to fight the election. Is that what he deserved? Itna bada jurm hai ye.
Once the legislature, in all its wisdom, has prescribed 2 years punishment for an offence for criminal defamation, what stops a judge from meting out the maximum punishment? The answer is an absolute, nothing stops. The answer is absolute no. Secondly, once so far as regarding Rahul Gandhi, he is not the first one to be disqualified. J. Lalita, the Lakshmadweep MP, Rashid
Except
Basu,
maybe a sense of proportion.
Abdullah Azam Khan. So there are a number of MLAs and MPs across the country who were disqualified on being convicted by a competent court of law. This is what Section 84 says. And one more part. Once the speech was delivered in an election atmosphere, it itself constitutes an electoral offence under Section 123(3) of Representation of People Act. No person, what Section 123 subclause? Please.
Election offences की तो आप बात भी मत करिए. Mr. Pathania, election offences की तो बात मत करिए. Because the show will end, but my list of which political leader has said during an election will not end. तो लिस्ट जो है बीजेपी की भी उतनी ही लंबी है जितनी कांग्रेस की लिस्ट लंबी है. So let's not even get into that.
I most respectfully say,
देश के गद्दारों को गोली मारो XYZ को. One of your leaders said it during an election speech, sir.
Let us take this case as a golden instance for politicians cutting across the political spectrums to be respectful and to be decent, and so far as public discourse is concerned. Let us all start. And as you new parliament, a new decency, new deterrent, new restraint, and new self-imposed discipline on the politicians. Let this be. Now, after all, this is a legal battle. Even 3 consecutive concurrent findings of fact and findings on law also, they have not been to put Congress on a self-correcting course. The way Rahul Gandhi is arrogant, the way the entire Congress is arrogant, yes, we will say no apology. We will not apologize. Why don't you apologize simply to the OBC community, to the Modi community? We are sorry, we have made an off-the-cuff remark. In the heat of the moment and the heat of the argument, somebody may say certain off-the-cuff remarks also. Why to get so personal? Why to get so adamant? Why
I
raise
agree
the
with
question
you
to act as arrogant?
I agree with you there on 2 points.
The Supreme is not.
I agree with you on 2 points. If you make a mistake, you say sorry and you move on. Mr. Patani, I agree with you on 2 points. A, when you make a mistake, and it's best to apologize and move on. And B, we would love some decency in our democracy and public life as well. That would be absolutely wonderful. But शायद वो मुंगेरी लाल के हसीन सपने हैं इस समय. And there's an election coming in 2024. So the decibels are only likely to grow. Adil, I'm out of time, but I really wanted to ask a Congress person this question, and it's been on my mind for a while. I want to know that, one of the things. No problem, Adil. Koi baat nahi. Happens. And I have only 20 seconds, so I'll appreciate if you can answer this question in 20 seconds. A lot of times BJP leaders come, every time I make the argument that, BJP leaders say the silliest things on stage and the most defamatory things on stage as well. And when I list them out, the simple question that comes from the BJP is, then why is the Congress not suing us? So, bhai, agar aapke leader ko koi jersey cow bole, या hybrid cow बोले तो आप लोग क्यों sue नहीं करते हैं? When the BJP sues you, you go complaining. You also sue them, na?
Shreya ji, I think every objective and right-thinking individual in this country can agree on one thing, that democracy is backsliding. The BJP, in their yearning for emasculating all institutions, and this is just not restricted to the Congress or any other opposition party, the BJP is stifling journalists. We've noticed on Twitter and other forms of forums of social media how the BJP's IT cell targets and attacks journalists, members of your fraternity. Some of them are your friends. So the bigger issue is that can political accountability be stifled? It is not about just Mr. Rahul Gandhi. There is a larger malice which has crept into our political culture, which has been aided and abetted by the Bharatiya Janata Party, where they want to evade accountability. I think that's the larger issue which we as right-thinking Indians, and I'm not wearing my political hat, I'm saying this as a citizen of this country. Every citizen must have the right to question his government. Those in power are public servants. They're not Rajas and Maharajas. They are carrying on their activities based on public money, on taxpayers' money. So therefore, if there are fugitives who run away with 10,000 crore rupees, who have a certain degree of proximity and affiliation to the BJP, I think no leader has committed a crime. And let me just jog your memory to what the BJP used to say when we were in power between 4 to 14. They made all sorts of comments and all sorts of imputations. We never went around in a calibrated and an organized manner filing defamation cases to stifle them, because we recognize there has to be a contest of ideas. There has to be a free flow of accountability. These are larger issues which we must recognize and take stock of before our democracy merely is reduced to a shell.
Okay, time up. Thank you, gentlemen, for this very interesting debate. Adil, good to have you on the show. Mr. Patania, thanks for being with us. Namit, thanks. And Aditya, thanks for being with us as well. I'm slipping into a very quick break. There's some more news coming up on the other side. Do stay with us.